It all starts at night, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
Teenagers prowling like cowboys with short hair, like gangs with boards and clubs ready to go beating, or hunting for that matter, for no special reason other than making up for future's history.
That's right.
Wet windows of car-fogging lovers, condensation, exhalation, late puberty, exploration. Some North Jersey hick boy sucking on some North Jersey hick girl. I don't care anymore about these things. Nothing means anything.
That's right.
A boy's ears ringing and body stinging from caffeine overdose. Fingers jittering. The lowly teenage boy dizzied and stinging with caffeine. Arms riddled with holes attached to a body ravaged with drug addiction. Not a day can go by before the pain seeps in through the tissues like DMSO, sinking into the organs and drilling into the bones, striking marrow like an oil rig or African elephant for that matter. Hundreds of stupid kids going to each other's houses every weekend for parties, going out getting drunk, coming home drunk, parents not knowing or knowing, or who the hell knows. Stupid. I hate it. Driving home early from a party. Girl says at one point, I want to die. Frightened boy suddenly, but boy not in right state of mind at the time. Outside says, I want to go home, but for some reason waits too long. Leaves early, having trouble driving, hand on her knee for whole ride, not saying much for reason that he is not sure whether or not she is responding, or he simply cannot hear her for reasons of what he did earlier. He looks across at her when he feels it is safe to do so, when he feels that if he does, he most likely won't crash. He sees her balled up, hands clenched around her knees. Earlier just looking out the window, but now her head is slightly sideways, eyes closed. Not sure if she's crying. She isn't. There's a hum to her posture. She's one point in the world, own little world. Cracked egg, glass crystal, shuddering, strong humming. Smooth face, dry cheeks, pulled in so far that the emotion is just a hum from the center of the being. Why it's so muffled. Hints of sexual abuse in her past. The reason for everything ever wrong. He stops. Has incredible trouble hearing now. It's very hot. Girl is not saying anything, mouth like downy splinters. He is a body of wood. She is staring at him sad like a mouse, scaring him for more than one reason. Pulls at him, clenching him theatrically, not tight enough but with enough speed to suggest urgency. The ruffling sound of her windbreaker, more real than anything in his uneventful life, at least to his degree. There is a continuous sound to everything. The hum. Heard it one time on an album of world music. Couldn't actually hear it then, muffled in the background of Mongolians or possibly Tibetans. Forever before she starts talking, face like clay, drugged or dead maybe. Clam kisses mean goodbye. Not said, but interpreted enough. Everything whispers. Boys seeing neon pinwheels and wagon wheels and Ferris wheels before he himself begins crying to her, convincing her. Finally, when you go, I go. He had to take that, figuring that was the most he could get for the time being. Enough safety for her now. Stepping away for a moment, light purple flowers dust deviling with the wind in a loading dock. Airy scratchings as they slide like tiny auto wrecks. It was a sign, or say a scene, from an American-made movie in Hawaii about India, pretending Hawaii was India, or somewhere supposedly spiritual like that. Looking up into the sky, and I figured out something I've always questioned since I was a child. I've seen these transparent squiggles when looking around every so often. They move with your eyes in a fluid motion, and you can't look at them from any other angles. I've always sought to find out what these apparitions were, or maybe it's just that I'm raving mad because even Sci-Med programs on PBS never mentioned anything about them. I know now what they are, however. Wetted down dust on the eyeballs. I felt like fucking Einstein when that one came to me.
E equals MC
I
squared.
received a call one morning at 4 in the morning. I was having a dream that the phone was ringing, and without actually picking it up, I said hello, and it was my friend. Then I woke up, and the phone was ringing. I truly picked it up, and it was that same friend. He was terribly drunk, one of those huge bottles of wine. His patterns had started again, now that his of-age delinquent brother was back home from wherever he was for 6 months. My friend had taken an entire bottle of something he had found, and in combination with the wine, he was hoping to kill himself. I I talked to him for a while, then let him go. Then I ordered an ambulance over to his house. After I heard the sirens taking off a minute later, I went there myself, blasting over the hills, skimming them to his home, like a cartoon car with huge rugged wheels. I saw the lights at the top of his street, and talked to the cops. I followed the ambulance to the hospital, glaring flashing lights at 4:30 in the morning, following over another set of hills like another scene from another movie. I figured he'd be mad at me, but he ended up thanking me, and the cop said that most people who actually want to do it don't call anybody. Someone just finds them in the morning sprawled out and looking pathetic, blue and bloated, eyes open. It all starts at night, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
So that's 2 lives I've saved already, and with her it's once a week. I should wear a white, tight-fitting Hanes t-shirt with suicide written on it in black marker, circled in red marker with a huge slash through it. And I should wear a fucking cape tied around my neck, big and red and flowing. And I should have a large running fan attached to my belt to keep it billowing and buffeting properly 24 hours a day. The Hari-Kari Avenger with the pistols on my hips, gazing off into the distance, proud as plum pudding. It so happens that the method my friend chose was the same route Marilyn Monroe took to kill herself. Well, I'm not so sure what the facts are myself. I don't know if she killed herself that way, or if just attempted to, or if she was murdered, or is she the one that's still alive. But I do know that Marilyn Manson has not as of yet killed himself, be it on stage or in his bathroom or kitchen or bedroom. But he's one whose aid the Hari-Kari Avenger would not come the day he might want to. Sprout some testes and do it, you pedophile motherfucker.
Fuck you.
She said that the guy who did it to her died years ago of a brain tumor. If I knew him while he was alive, I would have removed it for him, in my kitchen, using only items one may find in a kitchen. Pedophile motherfucker. It was like a prom, but older, almost like some debutante ball from the 50s, but more sassy and glittery and less innocent, with much lower pompadours. There was a storage room with racks and lights and chairs and other such manor properties, like an old green couch. And it was on this green couch on the way back from the can that he saw his darling on top of another man. And she was sounding like and looking like he was much better in the most important way of all. Back at the table, he sat down next to her. He had thought it would be tough of him just to whisper "whore" in her ear, but things like that hit her bluntly just don't sink in right, and she never understands, so such a thing wouldn't affect well. So he began this speech about green couches, and how he wanted to get one for his apartment, and how he thinks she'd be happy with one and on one, and how he thinks she'd look good on a green couch. He could see the pangs of nervousness festering inside her. He knew that she didn't exactly understand, but it was beginning to suspect. Then suddenly he said, "You know how I said that all the shit you endured as a child made you a stronger person?" "Yeah." "And how every so often you revert into this childish trance where all you say is either a muffled, or little girl things like 'he made me feel yuck'?" A silent stare from her. Then he went to whisper in her ear, "Well, the only thing he made you was a fat little whore." Threw it in her face, reassure all of her negative thoughts of herself, plus get the old engine of her eating disorder churning again. Let the necklace she gave him, the one that he showers with, slip out of his hand and onto the manor's carpet floor. Got up and left. Left her there at the table. He turned and saw her looking out at nothing. Across the rug and out the 3 sets of double doors. He saw her old/new boyfriend smoking with his chums in the parking lot, all tuxedoed up. The smoker gave him a nervous look as he approached. The smoker pretended to have no idea why he was approaching. The smoker said, "Hey," a huge, unexpected, mind-altering punch to the face. He followed through to beat the shit out of him, and in front of his unassisting, scared little belligerent pussy cronies. No one said a word for those few wailing moments, neither did he. He did it just for fun. Heard Tux Boy sobbing like a little girl as he laid there. He walked to his car. Tux Boy can't see her for the rest of the night without looking the fool. Fucked up the old/new boyfriend good and dandy, fucked her up forever. Oh, so old of a man with double-bridged glasses in a hospital bed in the hospital's courtyard. legs in blankets, chest draped with his son's satin baseball jacket. It's sunny out and the wind is blowing, but the courtyard keeps the wind out, but not the sun. He's staring right up at the sun, not bothering him. Perhaps he just wanted a personal glimpse of it before he dies. Or possibly his farts were just too much for his room. Everything could be something else. A truck without headlights on a two-way road in the middle of the night in the middle of the woods, zooming around a turn. Only brake lights, carrying a bike, reflecting so it was all red spokes like a night's carrier, trailing behind like a sonic boom of the real true night, where there is no sound, a vacuum that fills the ears all the way to the drums and begins drumming, making the brow deepen in the back rock and the spine wish, that is written of in fairy tales and spoken of in mattress commercials. But I have decided that there is one boy in each generation who is the caretaker of the night. I am security for all of the Eastern time zones, straight through the night on so many occasions. The one to sit up straight among so many sleeping bodies. There is no sound to the night, only a pale light that shines coldly on everything. Maybe a wind for the leaves. The cars on the streets have no drivers. There is more than one grim reaper. They come with headlights for the smaller animals. Perhaps a spotted fern, fawn, stirs leaves under a tree, and an eel kicks up a dusting of sand deep below. It goes from dark blue to light blue, and the first awake and the first to be heard are the birds. One sounding alone is the first, and never again is there a single. From the second call on, there are at least two at once. It gets lighter. More calls. The leaves turn green. Chin on a windowsill. Get up. It's still sort of blue in the bathroom. Squeezing out a shit. It takes work, so some help is needed. The creature begins to implement sounds. High-pitched squeaks, grunts, growls. Begins making an O sound. O, O. Begins to do the trick. It starts sliding out, breaking fused ass hairs, more pain than birth, shaking violently like a pink, dry tadpole, fingers out, screeching and oming. A small glass fuse bursts in the creature's head, everything at once, a deluge, so to speak. Shit, piss, spit, blood, sweat, bile, acid, hair, oil comes, spurting, and from every orifice the creature wobbles barefoot on the dirt, but doesn't die. The clouds move in like hyper, without sound. And then the sound happens. It's a continuous, like a roar, and the sound of 100 billion bodies waking. Starting cars, bowels kicking into gear like early morning truckers rumbling, audible to no one except the Eastern time zone safeguard, and to him it's deafening. But still, somehow, from within, it's a hum. Om, om. It crescendos with the last thought of with what it might, the screaming of an early morning little boy, a future god, pillager, sex monger, destroyer. The purest of evil, the purest of pure. Om to screensavers, Om to Mr. Green Jeans, Om to Cappuccino, Om to self-serve, Om to Bruce McCullough, Om to the Pogues, Om to WD-40, Om to places where they test telephone poles, Om to sexual molestation, Om to the Kama Sutra, Om to the YMCA, Om to Purple Rain, Om to fat kids with hair tails mowing their lawns in Megadeth t-shirts, Om to large type trash novels for old blind sluts, Om to the Woodstock generation, Om to Lyme disease, Om to brindle bull terriers, Om to Kral Mahales, Om to cinnamon crispanias, Om to glam rock, Om to boozers, Om to diggity, Om to the junkyard gang, Om to the Walkmen, Om to health clubs and hair gel, Om to step aerobics, Om to personal pan pizzas, Om to polyester, Om to 77 Mercury Monarchs, Om to big fucking wastes of skin, Om to all my peeps in Brooklyn, Om to famous waifish fags that I don't like Allen Ginsberg, Andy Warhol, the guy who pretended to be the son of Sidney Poitier, whether he was waifish or not, and those who weren't, like Rock Hudson and Liberace, the candelabra of dick suck. Om to Anal Maniacs, Volume 35. Om to Virgin Dreams, and Om to All the Way In. Om to chocolate drinks in cans specified for the elderly, like Depends and shuffleboard suspenderies. Om to a shit poem I once read called The Incredible Edible Egg, and Om to the disposable vaginal speculum. Om to the advent of fluorescent crayons. Om to those little yellow and green lights that never burn out. Om to postal workers. Om to the intellectual trucking code. Om to the Mario Brothers. Om, you gotta really hum it. Om to the Great Blue Heron. Om to the Dukes of Hazzard. Om to One-Hit Wonders. Om to Dr. Skidudo. Om to Pink Panther. Om to his little friend Kato. Om to Duracell batteries. Om to the sleeping little puppies. Om to wiffle balls and wiffle bats. Om to safety scissors that can't cut dirt. Om to Lucky wherever you are. Om to Bruce Lee and his son and the whole curse thing. Om to the biohazard symbol. Om to staple guns. Om to famous wayfish fags that I do like William S. Burroughs and Bunny Breckenridge. Om to Buddy Rich. Om to the town fuck-up. Om to busted hymens. Om to tulips. Om to Oxy 10. Om to John Wayne Gacy and other fruitcake clowns of yore. Om to the deep-sea fishermen. Om to oscillating fans. Om to Easter egg dye. Om to electric lawnmowers. Om to the FCC and NAACP. Om to the presidential fitness test. Om to Easter seals and Greenpeace. Om to unsatisfied housewives. Om to co-eds. Om to rubber mallets, truck stops with showers and latex and strawberries and nyla bones and enemas and S&M and Ebola and quesadilla and electric pencil sharpeners and police dispatchers and Instafoam and pixels and viscosity and New York City and Bill Cosby and Maharishi and Birkenstocks and refried beans and super bars and pita pockets and Swanson and Hungry Man and Poltergeist and Ron Howard and The Simpsons and Aphids. Om to Kings of Castles. Om to Dirty Rascals. Om to you. Om to me. Shove this up your arse. Shit it out. Flush it down. Pick it up. Dump it. Dump it. All the damn way the hell out to sea. Om. Om. Om.